So in part 3 of this Allan Legere series, we're going to look at the details of his killing spree after he escaped from the Georges Dumas Hospital while on medical care from the Renous Penitentiary. Now, the spring of 1989 was a very interesting time in New Brunswick because we were in the midst of kind of, I don't know what you would call it, a high level of trepidation about crime and punishment in New Brunswick and across North America. Now, in the media, we're seeing more and more stories about serial killers. WDIV was the main NBC affiliate that was brought in for a lot of the rural cable subscribers in New Brunswick. This was also a heightened time of regarding big city crime in Moncton, St. John, Frankton, and the smaller cities in Campbellton and Bathurst. So Legere's escape coincided with a province in New Brunswick that was not, say, on high edge, but something that was on the people's minds. Now, when Legere escaped from prison, most people thought he was going to go to the people outside a prison that supported him. We didn't think he would go back to his hometown, Chatham Head region, Chatham, Newcastle, all the side settlements. We figured, hey, within my police contacts throughout the province and my print contacts at the Leader and the different newspapers, Moncton Times, he probably wouldn't be heading back to Miramichi. But some people thought, return to the scene of their crime to exact revenge to the people in the region that, led to his incarceration. Now, he was at large for a total of 7 months. But the first 26 days that he was out of prison were, I think, the straw that stirred the drink. Now, in those 26 days, there was no word. The cops were trying to follow up different leads. Now, the problem happened here. The police were called to a fire on May 29th at a a location involving the Flam sisters. Now, Annie Flam was a shop owner, and her sister Nina were very close. They ran a grocery that had their apartment built in on the top, like a lot of locations in the province. Now, an assault and murder occurred, and he didn't directly connect that to Legere right away, but there were some thoughts he was responsible for the crime. Now, he found out in a later investigation that Allan set fire to the grocery in order to cover up his crimes, which include beating and killing shop owner Annie Flam and the attack and rape of Nina. Now, what was interesting about the Annie Flam deceased is that when a fire was set in the building, she did not die from the fire itself. She died from her own bodily fluids building up on her lungs, and she died. Now, Nina, who survived the attack, told police after the incident that she had heard footsteps coming up the stairs to her room, and when she got up to investigate the noise, a man fitting Legere's description rushed into her room. He easily overpowered Nina and tied her up, better, and then raped her. When he tucked her tightly back in bed, Nina was able to untie herself and free herself from the bed sheets and fought her way through the smoke and flames to get outside, but collapsed at the foot of the stairs. Police then discovered that her sister Annie suffered a similar attack. Now, through May, June, July, August, September, there was all kind of rumors. Some people claimed he saw Legere all over different locations in Miramichi. Other people claimed he saw him as far north as Bathurst. Allegedly, he made a trip to Montreal where he was almost discovered by police. There was all kind of rumors that he was doing odd jobs and trying to get some extra money by pawning off some of the items that were stolen in the heists. Now, The next murders occurred on October 13th, 1989 in Newcastle, which of course is part of Miramichi, where sisters Donna and Linda Dhandi were attacked and murdered. Now, the same modus occurred. The attack, he set the building on fire, and the sisters had been beaten and raped, but not much evidence was available as their bodies were badly burned in the fire. But it was evidence on both of the cases that applied to the new forensic investigating approach of DNA. Now, Legere's DNA was being collected from his crimes. Now, DNA was tried in evidence previously, not saying inconclusive, but it was still a process that came well before the O.J. Simpson trial. Now, I guess a new lab, forensic lab, was set up in Ottawa, and police were able to make it public that Legere was the primary suspect because the information connected him to the murders of the Flam sisters and the Dhandi sisters. Now, at the time, like I said, I was a reporter for the Lousy News. Sister paper, membershiply owned our paper. Mountain Times, ASN, ATV, CBC, SRC. There was so much media coverage going on, it went national, like the infamous Floyd Robertson report saying that, the beautiful community of Chatham and Newcastle were under siege. But when I say that the title of this report, I'm not downplaying what Legere put the people from Miramichi through. No one can even understand what those people went through. But throughout the province of New Brunswick, it put New Brunswick on the map in the worst way possible. People were scared to come to New Brunswick. People were scared to travel. They were locking the doors at night where it never happened before. Miramichi was known to be a tough region, but to see one of their own doing something so dastardly and so criminal to such a beautiful people and beautiful community was just so shocking. But I know growing up in Lorne, Gravel, Jack River area, people up home were scared because we've seen murders before, but not like this. There would be multiple murders sometimes, but it was always a domestic dispute where the father killed the mother killed the father, killed the kids, whatever. But there was no serial killer, to my knowledge. Even though, again, the Joe Richard case, he could have easily been a serial killer, but nothing with Legere's, what he call comeback attempt. Now, the information was out there that Allan Legere was the main suspect yet again. And when this occurred, he struck again. Now, on November the 16th, at the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church in his hometown of Chatham, I guess the congregation was waiting for their respected Father James Smith to arrive to give a sermon. When he did not arrive, concerned members of the clergy went to look for him at the rectory. What they discovered was a terrible scene which cops have described one of the worst they've ever seen. There was blood all over the kitchen of the rectory, and Father James Smith was found dead on the floor of his office near, ironically, his safe. Now, according to police that have talked about the case in documentaries, the Rick McLean book, different people, he said Legere allegedly jumped on the priest either when he was dead or when he was dying, and separated his ribs from his rib cage. Now, we don't know how long the torture occurred. It was probably more than an hour, and the devastating injuries, according to some of the police officers at the scene, were the worst they've ever seen. Now, there's supposition that Legere tortured Smith to get him to open the safe, and when he did not, Legere also set a fire as well, which was a modus operandi, and left large bloody footprints all over the scene. Now, he stole Father Smith's car, was later found near a motel, and contained a pair of boots that matched the footprints found at the death scene. Now, a week later, Legere, getting very desperate, hijacked a taxi at gunpoint, demanding to be taken to Miramichi, and of course, because of the bad weather conditions, the taxi driver lost control and ended up going into the ditch. Now, Legere, still on the run and desperate, flagged down another car and took the driver of that car as a hostage and took the taxi driver as a hostage as well. Now, when that car needed gas, the trio stopped at a gas station on the side of the road, and while Legere gassed up the vehicle, he took the car keys with him. When he went inside the station to pay, the two hostages started the car with a set of spare keys and took off. They stopped and then phoned the police as soon as they thought it was safe. Legere was arrested on the initial charge of trying to hijack a truck and surrendered when he realized that the police had surrounded him. And the words of Rick McLean, the author, my former editor, for the leader of the Legere book, no muss, no fuss. He didn't throw up any resistance. Now, at this time, Legere was sent back to murder on the previous conviction, and the new trial occurred. So the next podcast we'll talk about the second amount of charges. But we have to understand one thing, ladies and gentlemen. New Brunswick, again, in 1989, there was no internet. The only media that was covering it was a typical print and television and radio. And I must commend the majority of journalists that I work with or were colleagues of mine who covered the Legere case. I know there's a lot of stress with COVID. I know there's a lot of stress for a lot of journalists. But the professionalism that was shown, we were working together at the time. We would share information, share phone calls. I know there was a stakeout in Bathurst. I was there for a little while because we heard Legere had a safe house in Bathurst. There was all kind of rumors who were showing up at train stations and airports throughout the province looking for a flight out. It seems that Legere, in my personal opinion, wanted to get back at the region that, made him or didn't make him or was cruel to him. He had family problems. I know he was a tough. He had, some people say he was a psychopath. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but there's some argument I consider murder sprees and serial killer two fingers of the same hand. Now, was he a Paul Bernardo? No. Was he a Ted Bundy? No. Ted Bundy didn't deliberately go back to his home areas and try to destroy the communities through such a manner. But see, Legere combined four major things actually. Robbery, rape, arson, and murder. A dangerous, dangerous thing. Because his level of destruction, his level of his path of destruction, again, was more like Charlie Manson. And we know that Charlie Manson, he never killed anybody in that murder street, La Bianca's, and the Tate House murder. He instructed other people to do it. Charlie also allegedly committed murders before. But Charlie Manson, the level of psychopathism, I know it's kind of bizarre. It was a cult of personality. With Allan Legere, he had enough of cult of personality by himself to do it. But you imagine this, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm 24, 25 years of age. I'm a young journalist. I've covered murders before. I've seen cases I've covered, again, after the Corey Moore murders in Lorne, the Miramichi Beldoon, all different stuff. Like I said, it was a factor. People were scared back then. And this guy, being one out of maybe, 650,000, 700,000 people, we didn't know he was going to show up. There was rumors he was seen all over Miramichi, rumors he was seen up in Carleton, Bathurst, Moncton, St. John, Frankton, Quebec, Montreal. Allegedly he went to Montreal as part of his escapee. Like I said, it's over 30 years ago that this occurred, and we're still talking about it. If you go to the documentary that you did with Rick McLean, Sean Waters, some of the other cops and journalists about it, it's a fresh wound for a lot of people. It's a fresh wound for me speaking about this because my career, when I left the Campbellton Tribune, which was bought by Dalhousie News, I came down here to Woodstock to be the sports editor and kind of an assistant editor, for the Advertiser and the other papers. I had no Allan Legere down here, but I had the ghost of Allan Legere from the time 89 to the time I left in 2008. Every time a murder would occur, we talk amongst ourselves and said, it's bad, but there's no Allan Legere. I mean, these people are, to escape from prison is hard enough in New Brunswick, because prisons back in the day, like the prison up in Dalhousie, was by a library and a horseshoe court, and people could just jump the fence. I can tell you for a fact that as soon as Allan Legere was caught, the security for escapees was much tighter. It was still a learning process. Again, that's 30 years ago, a different thing. But ladies and gentlemen, at no time did New Brunswick was a virgin province. We had our bad pups through the years. But to have an Allan Legere put New Brunswick on the map as the crime center of the Maritimes was terrible. Anyway, have a good evening, and please let me know what you think. like, a comment, or subscribe. Any feedback is positive. Have a good evening. Bye.